Are you someone who is constantly searching for that important email that had contact information for someone or details about a project you're working on? Do you say to yourself, oh, I should create folders so I can get more organized in my email, but you drag your feet getting it done? If you hate the idea of creating folders, should you do it anyway? We'll answer that question today on Tuesday Tech Training. Hello and welcome to Tuesday Tech Training. My name is Jennifer Stewart. I'm a digital productivity trainer and the owner of Gateway Productivity. Today we're going to talk about whether or not you should use email folders. So many of my clients feel like they need to create the folders. They feel like it's something they should do. And those who have folders have way too many and they can't find what they're looking for. So what's the benefit of having folders? Should you create them? What if you don't even want to use them? What is the answer to the age-old question of should I use email folders? I'll start off by telling you that I am not going to give you the right or wrong answer. I'm going to give you the tools to decide what is the right answer for you. Traditionally, the best way to teach email productivity has been by creating email folders. However, the search function has gotten so good these days that using email folders is not always the right answer. So how do you know one way or another? The first thing I ask my clients is, does your inbox bother you? So when you look at this screen, does that bother you? Does it bother you to have a bunch of emails with no place to organize them? Some people will say yes, and some will say no, and there is no wrong answer. First, we'll talk about if your answer is no, your inbox does not bother you, no matter how full it gets. In that case, you want to think about, are you losing track of emails? If the answer to that is yes, then you need to think about what is your email process. And what I mean by this is, what do you do when you have an email that you can't process right now, but you know it's something that you need to do later? A lot of people will just leave that in their inbox. But as you get further and further down and you scroll further, then you may lose track of that email. So you want to have a next step for the emails that you're not going to process right now. That might look like using the flags in Outlook that you could see here. It might be the stars in Gmail. Another option would be to take the task that is created through the email and put it into a task program, put it onto your task list that you have on paper, whatever that looks like for you. The key here is to make sure those important emails don't get lost. Have the next step ready for those if you are not going to use folders in your email. One caveat is that even if you're not going to use a whole folder structure in your email, I highly recommend at least having a few folders for those things that you need to put your hands on right away. It's something that is a pants on fire issue, as I like to call them, and your boss is reaching out and you know that you're going to have to get to that email right away. Go ahead and dump those into an important folder or something like that, or maybe something that's labeled with your boss's name, whatever you'd like that to be, so that you can put your hands on it right away. You may not file very many things, but the most important things will get filed in there. And then of course, you'll have your process to do the tasks that are associated with any other emails. One of my clients even chooses to have a done folder that she puts everything in so that it's not all sitting in the inbox together, but she can always get back to it. So that's an option as well. Keep track of the task that needs to be done based on an email, and when you're done with that, you could dump it into a done folder. The other thing to think about if you're not going to use a folder structure in your email is to use your search function and use it all the time. You can use it to search for a person. You can use it to search for a less common word that might show up in the email that you remember. Any of those things will work. The trick is to not put in an entire phrase in your search, but instead hone in on that critical word that will definitely show up in that email, or a critical name that will show up in the email. And that will get you closer to finding that email faster. When you put an entire phrase, the search function is going to look for every word in that phrase and every email that has one of the words in that phrase. If you know an exact phrase that's in an email, put that in between quotation marks. So put a quotation mark, put the whole phrase, and then put the second quotation mark. Then the search function knows to look for that entire phrase as a whole. Going back to our original question, what if you said, yes, this does bother me. This inbox bothers me. And I really want to have it organized and have nice folders to file things into. There's nothing wrong with that either. And let's talk about how you build a good folder structure within your email. When you're starting to build a folder structure, think about the primary overarching subjects or people that are involved first. And there's no right or wrong answers as you build your folder structure. This is something that you need to be able to use. And so always go with your gut as to what you feel like you should call a folder. Don't worry about if it sounds formal or correct. It needs to be something that you would look for that email under. When I talk about primary subjects or people, that is so that if you have something that's not so specific, it is just about a certain department that you work with, or it's just about marketing overall if you're a small business owner, you can dump it into that folder. Once you start to see a trend within that folder where maybe you have a lot of emails that have to do with blogs, then you can create that subfolder in your marketing folder that is for blogs. Or if you're working with a specific department and you're starting to dump everything in and you start to see a specific person that is always coming up to the top and you have a lot of emails from that person and it would help you to organize by that, you could put that person under the department. The primary folders give you a place to put those things that don't fit in the more specific folders. And so many people start with the very specific folders and then they run across emails and they don't know what to do with them, and then they might try and fit them into a bucket they don't fit in. And so that's why I always say start with your primary folders first, your big overarching, usually subjects or departments that you work with. And then as you start to put things in those folders, you can add subfolders as you need them. One note of caution is that you don't want to create too many levels of subfolders. So let's go back to the idea of the department. So you have a department, and then you have a person that is a subfolder, and then maybe you have a project you are working on with them, and then you want to go another level. Try not to go more than 3, maybe 4 levels of subfolders, because you start to get to the point where you're clicking and clicking and clicking so far to get to the email that you're looking for that it defeated the purpose in the first place. You might think of doing a combination of 1 to 2 subfolders and then using your search from there. The thing to remember, whether you're going to use folders or not, is to choose a process. And if you're not going to use folders, that may just be your task process. That may be the few folders that you want to create, and then what you would do beyond that. For someone who's using folders, it would be what exact folders you want to create. Whatever that process is for you, commit to that. Pick just 1 or 2 pieces of it to implement right away, and get a habit built of implementing those pieces of your process. And then you can add more. If you're not going to use folders, maybe you implement the task process that you want to do if an email needs to be processed at a later time. So what are you going to do with it? Is it going to go into a task system? Is it going to get written on a to-do list? Is it going to get flagged or starred? And figure out what that process looks like first before you decide if you want to implement something else. Pick one thing that's going to work. For the person who's using folders, just implement a couple of those primary folders, start to use them, build the habit, and then you can go from there creating either subfolders or additional primary folders. Have you had a light bulb moment from this training? If so, please let me know in the comments below. Give the video a thumbs up or share it with someone you know could benefit from the information. Also, you can click on the red button below to subscribe to this channel, and that will let you know when new videos are posted. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.